Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Living on Music. I'm Steve Hauk. Behind me, you see the club Bobby's Idle Hour. And it is a well-known venue, small venue in Nashville that people love to play, including my wonderful guest, Dave Mininberg, joins me on Living on Music. And Dave is a guy who has used Nashville for his own growth in music. He started years ago playing young, became a guitarist and also a singer-songwriter. But, from blues to rock to country to Jimmy Buffett, Dave covers a lot of ground, and he has kept expanding his repertoire over the years of originals and wonderful covers. And again, Nashville has been a wonderful part of his life. He goes down there often, works with songwriters. He's been featured on radio shows down at WFMC. He had a single again. The note earlier was called Jimmy Buffett Didn't Write This Song. And it's been over 4 months in the top 40 on A1A radio. He's performed as a featured artist at numerous festivals over the years, and has a new album called Change Your State of Mind. And we're going to be very lucky to hear him play a song, even the title cut from that record. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to Living on Music, Dave Mininberg. Dave Mininberg, we've been in touch for months, and you are on Living on Music, my man. Welcome. How are you doing?
Brother, I'm great, and I'm glad to be here. Yeah, our schedules are life gets in the way of a good time, brother.
Yeah, it does. It does. But boy, it has been wonderful to kind of learn about your musical self, your presence, your ride along. I've had a great time, and wanted to start a little bit asking you as a musician, and I've done this show beginning in April 2020 with Scott Kurt, my first guest and a longtime friend of mine, kicked this off. And of course, it went through the last 2.5 years, which we had a commonality of the pandemic. But I like to ask musicians how they got through it. How did you deal the best with the last 2.5 years? Did you find positivity in it? Because a lot of people have written songs, released records that they wrote in the. How have you done to get through this, Dave?
Well, yeah, first they said 2 weeks, and we thought, oh, okay. And, a couple of venues were like, hey, listen, we're going to cancel this week, but, next time around.
Right.
Then, of course, it started extending. As frustrating and depressing as it could be at times, I think a lot of musicians really made the best of it. And so first of all, I definitely did write. I got some really good songs out of that time because I had downtime.
Right.
And then the other thing I started doing was front porch shows. So I told my neighbors, and I hadn't seen it done yet at that time. And not that I'm some trendsetter. I think it was one of those sort of, what do you call it, zeitgeist kind of thing where people just started going, hey, I got to play, and where can I do it? And so we started doing it on my front porch, and a friend, somebody said, why don't you stream it on Facebook? So we started doing that. And every Thursday we did happy hour together, 5:30 to 6:30. I mean, old friends from high school, from college were reaching out.
Right.
The coolest thing was at the end of every show, I would be able to read the comments and I would try to reply to everybody. And there were days, not that I'm not very big, but for me, it was pretty cool. 800 to 1,000, 1,200 kind of folks tuning in here and there. Right. Folks were sending me pictures. Hey, I'm having a beer and you're up on my TV, and we're hanging out with you for happy hour. And then friends, like one friend would message me, hey, we're listening. And then another friend would say, hey, so-and-so, how you been? And then they're chatting. And I got 2 songs out of that whole series. I got My Front Porch.
Right.
And then I got a song, which I'm really, really proud of. And I've been getting very good feedback from some very good writers, called You Are My Everything, which is a story about somebody I knew from high school. she had sent me a post and said, "Hey, can you do something for my wife this week at the happy hour?" And I was like, "Well, what?" And so we're messaging back and forth.
Right.
And at some point she had said, "It's been a life of worry, but it's been a life of love." And I was like, "Man, that's a great line."
Yes.
And I said, "Can you send me a little blurb about you two?" And that's where the song came from. And we recorded it. It's up on YouTube now, and it's Spotify, iTunes, all. And she said they listen to it all the time. And after it was over,
wow,
they came out and heard it live, and we got hugs and pictures, and there were some misty eyes. And so yeah, COVID sucked, but we made some good things out of it, man.
Yeah, you did. It seems like it. You just released "Change Your State of Mind," which, as you said to yourself, you know, it's centered around the beach or the Keys. And 6 of 9 were released as singles, and then you added 3 for the record. So that must feel good, though, Dave, to have something out now that is kind of churning. It's out there, you know, I'm streaming, and it must feel good to have that out there.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when you're sort of the blue collar singer-songwriter, you don't always have the time or the money to go in studio and spend however long it takes to just knock everything out and do it. So, you know, you do it piecemeal. So I'd go to Nashville, I'd record 2 songs. I'd go to Nashville, I'd record 3 songs.
Right.
And lots of discussion, man. And I don't know what your opinion is. You're in the business. You know, are albums is it worth releasing a whole collection of songs anymore? Because so much is streamed as an individual song.
Right. It's a tough call. It is a tough call. And that is a wonderful topic because I have talked about, you know, with 175 to 200 musicians since this started, and everybody has these different feelings about releasing. Just had, you know, Melissa Quinn Fox on, you know, a wonderful Americana country artist, and she's just released 9 singles, but then didn't know whether to do it again or felt like it. I know that you said that in Nashville, there's a lot to talk about what's better, and that must have been an interesting kind of thought to do. What pushed the thought of you, Dave Mininberg, to put out the album?
Well, yeah, a lot of what do you release? And some people still, do you do even a CD? And then there's a sort of retro movement to the album, to
yes.
the hard record, you know, the vinyl. I think the best argument I got from someone, and I'm going to apologize because I can't remember who it was to give them credit. But the best argument I got was, because I was bouncing it off of everybody, because you're trying to figure out where's your best, you know, bang for the buck, where are you going to put your money?
Right.
They said if they stream the album, they're more likely to listen to all the songs. And that resonated with me because I think about how many times I have favorite artists and their songs that are not the common radio top 10 songs.
Sure.
But I just love them. And I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't listened to, you know, growing up.
Totally.
And that kind of is what convinced me. I'm kind of known for the Jimmy Buffett type songs.
Nice.
But there are other ones, and I would like, you know, hopefully they resonate with somebody. And so I thought, what the hell, let's do it.
I love it, man, because as a 61-year-old rock and roll fan for all those years, I still have the 500 or 600 vinyl down in my basement, because there's nothing like an album. And, you know, I love the fact that you would put that out, regardless of what the thought might be. Are people going to gather all the songs? Let them gather all the songs, and then they'll pick through them. They'll love all the different kinds. I love it. We'll start with something here just to give people a taste of Change Your State of Mind. You mentioned that it was centered around the beach of the Keys. This song obviously is right down that alley. It was shot and edited by Yoshindi Namagabe. Is that his right name? And what a wonderful, give us a little bit of a kind of a nutshell of Yoshindi's presence with you. We talked a little bit about it pre-show.
Yeah, he's helped me tremendously. You know, I've been slogging away, and you do all these little bars, and he was a student where I taught. I did not have him in class, but I knew him.
Wow.
Because I had other kids that were his friends, and he ran track, and my daughter ran track, and he was just helped her out. My daughter's a long jumper. Shindy's a long jumper. So I got to know him. You know, I would just chat with him, and he's one of those guys that's he's kind, he's gentle, and he's just a a young guy with an old soul and wisdom, you know.
Oh, I love that. And his family's from Africa, right? They came to the United States and found and were able to find a way to go forward. It's wonderful. It sounds like.
Oh, let the classic sort of, you know, they got lucky, hit the visa. Ushindi had never been to formal school. He's got two brothers.
Wow.
And a sister. They came here with really nothing. They ended up working at the Salamander Resort, which Sheila Johnson owns from BE. Yeah. And she took a liking to them, from what I understand. And I played at the Salamander. I met her. She's a very nice woman. And so they were working, you know, doing service stuff, waiting tables and all that. And one brother ended up going back to school. He got his IT degrees, making good money. Another brother stayed on there, I believe. He's a manager. And Ushindi got into doing this video stuff. And they just bought their first house together. Just a great family, great people, working hard. And he's grown his business. He does videos for me. And even the Nashville guys were like, who does your videos? And I'm like, it's this 24-year-old kid. He's been hired. He's been to Greece. He's been to Mexico. He's traveled around the United States, you know, different places because these folks hire me. And he's been in Nashville with me, but my budget was a little less. We stayed in this little Airbnb. He was hired to go to Nashville to shoot for a company that does Airbnbs. And he stayed in like this 5-room mansion. I mean, it was just phenomenal, you know.
That's awesome.
So anybody out there, Ushindi is just he's an incredible guy to work with. He's got an incredible work ethic. And he said to me, you need to have a better online presence. And that's the only way to do it. You need to have content. And he's the one. I wouldn't have done it if he hadn't told me we need to do this. And
I love that. I love that. That's great. Well, here, everybody. Here's a taste to get going in Dave's musical presentation of himself. This is wonderful. This is from the latest record, Change Your State of Mind, and a little bit of Sunset.
A cheap motel, but a minute to the beach. A bottle of whiskey and some ice from the machine. A plastic cup, the kind they leave on the sink. The ocean invites me out to sit and have a drink. Gonna watch the sunset, get mellow for a while. Feel the sand and smell the salt. It always makes me smile. 3 hours to get here, but it feels a world away. I feel small staring at the ocean as the waves wash my troubles away. The afterglow from the sun lets its fires dance with the clouds. Like a Bob Ross painting show, I could watch for hours. Man, I really miss him now that he is gone. And in our hearts and on TV, the legend lives on. Gonna watch the sunset, get mellow for a while. Feel the sand and smell the salt. It always gets me high. It took 3 hours to get here, but it feels a world away. Feel small staring at the ocean as the waves wash my troubles away.
Yeah, that is wonderful, man. It shows your style. I feel some John Prine with a little more kind of exuberance, but that wonderful cadence of your voice. And Buffett, of course, the man. Just had Livingston Taylor on, and
really?
he and Jimmy Buffett are remaining 40, 50-year friends. And I love that he used to play with Jimmy all the time and stuff like that. But you had a song also on, and we'll show a little snippet of it called Gonna Get It Lit Up. And it's a real fun rocker shot in studio. You also, on YouTube, you had a post, and I love this, from Colton Middleton. And it said, "Love the music, Mr. Mininberg. It's great to see you having fun at your full potential. I'm glad I got to have you as my teacher before you left. I only wish it was in person. I could tell you we're meant for more, though. Keep it up." That must make you feel good to hear that stuff, man.
Yeah, it gives me chills when you say that. He's just a, it's funny. A week ago, I had Colton during COVID,
right?
And a lot of kids struggled, and it was hard. As a teacher, you got to bring it every day.
Totally.
The kids are struggling at home, and he was one of those that we had a choice, and he came back to the classroom, and some teachers came back, and just got to really like him. He's just a great kid. He's just really nice. So one day, my daughter, my youngest daughter, who's at George Mason University, says, "Hey, Dad, guess who I ran into? Colton Middleton."
Oh.
So my daughter's boyfriend, if you can track this, my daughter's boyfriend's, what do they call it in the fraternity? Little brother.
Wow.
Is Colton. So about a week ago, he comes over to the house, and we hugged it out a little bit, and checking on each other, see how you've been. So yeah, it was a cool, and I remember reading that, and I just felt like, oh man,
yeah, I read it. Sometimes I look at comments like anybody would, and I saw that, and just it seemed to cement a bunch of things. Here, everybody, here's a little taste of that song that Colton was commenting on, and I love the rhythm of this thing. This rocks. This is from Change Your State of Mind. I'm going to get lit up.
Up with a warning, gonna be 90 by late morning. I'm out of coffee and I'm out of bread, only cold water from my shower head. But it's Friday, payday, the beers are on ice, and everybody's ready to party. Party tonight, baby. And when the sun goes down, we'll get lit up. Coolers in the bed of my truck. 100 pack of solo cups to the beach with my friends. Get lit up, baby. One minute late, the boss makes threats. Sun beating down on the back of my neck. 2 tons of concrete need to be poured. I crush my fingers between 2 boards, but the beer's on ice for the night, and everybody's ready to party. Party tonight, baby. When the sun goes down, we'll get lit up. Coolers in the bed of my truck. 100 pack of solo cups to the beach with my friends. Get lit up, baby. So I peel out, all green lights heading to my house. I shower and I change as fast as I can. The guy in the mirror's a whole new man, and the beer's ice cold for tonight, and everybody's ready to party. Party tonight, baby. Well, the sun went down hours ago, 1 a.m., and I'm feeling mellow. I'm gonna have to sleep in. Tomorrow night we're gonna do it again, baby. And when the sun goes down, we'll get lit up. Coolers in the bed of my truck. 100 pack of solo cups to the beach with my friends. Get lit up, baby.
Yeah, that's a ripper. I love that song. Dave, you've really created a Nashville part of your life. I know that you, and I love some of the stories here. You're going to go back in February, as I think you mentioned to me, or notes, right?
Yeah, be there
Back there.
February, I think 16th through the 22nd.
Have you been down there since COVID started?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I
Good.
was down there a few months ago, actually finishing up some of the songs for the album.
Yes, that's what I figured.
And then I had been down there. I sponsor some students every year. They do a senior project.
Wow.
So for a number of years now, I don't drive with them because of the liability and everything issues. But what I do is for a senior project, you can pursue anything you want. So kids that might be interested in music, I meet them down there. I set up a workshop with a friend of mine. He does this, for a living. Right. He's also a wonderful songwriter. I've written songs with him, Marc-Alan Barnette.
Sure.
And then some other friends of mine, Janet and Charles, they run certain things, right. Like open mics, Debbie Champion down at the Commodore and different places, the Whiskey Bent, anyway. And I bring the kids down. We set up a workshop. I take them to write-arounds. I try to introduce them. I don't know if they realize some of the writers that I've introduced. I mean, these are pretty big names. Matter of fact, these two guys, I was in Key West last May.
Right.
Everybody had been asking me about this guy, Matt McGinn. Have you run into him? I knew the name. Some of my old teacher friends had asked me.
Right.
Well, I see him. He's one of the big sort of headliners at the BMI Writer Festival. He's the guy that they put up in the hotel and do everything for.
Right.
So he's not famous as a performer, although he's very good. But he's famous as a writer. And I see him, and as soon as I saw him, I was like, I know that kid, man. He's like 35 now.
Right.
Afterwards, I walked up to him. I said, hey, I taught you, didn't I? And he looked at me and he's like,
he goes, you.
2006. Well, we got chatting more, and I kept thinking, why would I not remember him better if I taught him? And it turned out I had him in homeroom.
Oh, cool.
And in those days, Matt was working like a 4:30 a.m. shift at Starbucks. So he said, I probably missed a lot of homerooms,
Right.
But he is now arguably one of the top 4 or 5 writers in Nashville. He's written for Kane Brown.
Oh, man.
Blake Shelton. And I had said to him, listen, I'm bringing kids down.
Right.
Would you be cool just chatting with them?
Sure.
And he went, yeah, let's do it. So we went and had breakfast with him, and he shared his experiences and how he made his living in Nashville. So that was a really cool. And I text him once in a blue moon. And
I love that, and it's you've had that with the students. It's wonderful that you're doing that. Kudos to you as being a teacher of in your life, and also it makes you want to continue to help students and people get along and keep going. You also have done wonderful down there with the Jimmy Buffett didn't write this song thing was on top 40 down there for a while, and in general you did some other wonderful things down there. What I loved and read, and I was like, wait a minute. On the recommendation of Billy Joel.
Yeah.
How did that, you headed for Nashville? When was that? Around? Like,
I'm trying to think how many years it's been. Maybe 8 years. I got to ask my brother. I was in Miami.
Right.
My brother was graduating with his master's, and I had lived in Miami, so I kind of knew, I knew my way around. And I'd gone back down there, and I was like, I went to like some CVS. I got a mask, snorkel, and I'm going to go out doing a little snorkeling on South Beach.
Right.
Well, I need quarters for the meter. So I go into this place, and like Miami's the kind of place where you can walk into a restaurant where like a single oyster is $20, but everybody's wearing flip-flops and nobody, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I walk in this place, and I almost bump into this guy, and he backs up and he gives this big, after you kind of thing. He's going at. And I was like, son of a bitch, I think I know who that is. So when I came out, I said to the valet guy, is that who I thought it was? And he goes, yeah, he comes down here. That's his car. And he points to this like gorgeous convertible Bentley.
Oh, of course.
I was like, I can't pass up this opportunity. So instead of going snorkeling, I sat there and I waited. And about 45 minutes, an hour later, he comes out to have a cigarette. And I just said, hey, man, do you mind if I pick your brain for a little bit? And he's like, yeah, sure. So we chatted about 10 minutes. He was teaching at Columbia. So we had some commonalities. He's better at everything he's ever done than me, but I did a little boxing. He was a boxer.
Right.
he was teaching at Columbia, obviously the music thing. And I told him, he said, so what are you doing? And I told him all the stuff I was doing. He said, you need to go to Nashville. And I said, well, I'm just not a straight country guy. I like blues. I do. He said, it doesn't matter. And I said, what about Austin or LA? He said, Austin's performing town. And he said, and you want to be a writer? And he said, in LA's TV and film, obviously. And he said, you could get into that. He said, but if you want to hone your craft, you go to Nashville. He said, it doesn't matter what kind of music you do.
Oh my God.
So I came home and I said to my wife, I got to figure out how to get to Nashville.
Oh man. And 3 to 4 times a year. That's when you're down there. And that has been Dave, also something that I've talked to. Do you, Scott Kurt, I mentioned, was my first guest on the show. Scott, Scott's name. Personally. Yeah. What a great guy. What a wonderful guy. We worked in television together. He was just he was like working at a desk job when I was a producer at Fox 5 in DC. And then he's always said, I wanted to be a songwriter. And he ended up becoming a very, doing very well in this region, and also going down to Nashville 3 or 4 times a year. It is a real honor that you're able to do that, man. I mean, the students thing is one fabulous part of it, but also to go down there. You went down to Facility Nashville. Is that where you recorded your music?
I met a guy, David Taylor. He's a writer too. So I met him at the writer rounds, and
right.
And it's interesting you mentioned, folks think Nashville, a certain age or whatever. Listen, if you want to be the rock star person, yeah, you should probably get going at 16 or 17. But if you just want to be good at your craft, I meet people that are lawyers, that are plumbers, that are, restaurant managers, and they just want to be good at their craft. And that's, that's where you have to go. Sure. But yeah, so I meet David. David's from Scotland, and then he's like an engineer in Silicon Valley. But he'd always played music, grew up in bands, did all that stuff, and got out of his job in San Francisco and came to Nashville, bought a home, and tried to do things as a writer. Wasn't working, so he built this studio, and he put together a team of phenomenal musicians. The guys on my albums, like I don't even take out my guitar when I go there.
Right. Right.
To use the same verb as what I do and what those guys do, playing guitar, it just seems to be there should be another word. But he's got Tim Galloway. Tim Galloway's played on pretty much all my stuff.
Wow.
And Tim was like, I think in 2019 or 2020, top 5 session guy in Nashville. He's played for Little Big Town. He's been on the Late Show, backing up people on the Tonight Show.
Sure.
Seth Roush, who was playing with Keith Urban forever. I think he's playing with Don Felder now.
Nice.
Luis Espaillat, the bass player. I had this other guy. He played a couple, but Luis. And it's funny, like when I'm playing with new guys, like occasionally I'll put together a little band because we're doing a festival. And I'll say, well, here, you can listen to it. And like the bass player came to me and he goes, I can't do that stuff he's doing. And I was like, no, I didn't expect you to. You can play it straight. Don't worry about it.
Sure.
But this incredible team, and they are unbelievably nice. They always say to me, the first session we had, Tim was playing something, and I said, well, just let it go. He said, what do you mean? I was like, just let it all hang out, man. Just have fun with this. I mean, if we're not having fun here. And he goes, a lot of guys I record with are afraid that the musicians are going to overshadow them. And I was like, I don't give a crap. You guys are great. Why wouldn't I want you to be great on this?
Yes. So
he's like, sweet. So he comes back, he goes to his car, comes back with his like classic tube amp, plugs it in, lets it warm up, and just tears it up. And ever since then, every time we go in, they make recommendations. And what do you think about this? Hey, I'm thinking I could lay this over that. And do you like it? And I'm like, oh, hell yeah, I love it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, this is a great segue into this wonderful clip that you did of a little bit of a time spent in that studio and pulling up. And I love your comment at the beginning about the person shooting camera was like a cat that kind of came up on you.
Yeah, sneaks up on me.
There you are. But it's a great clip of exactly what you just talked about the kind of the meshing of you guys and the wonderful kind of demeanor of the guys. Here, let's go with Dave Mininberg down to Nashville and a little bit inside Facility Nashville.
Hey, you're like a cat. I don't even, You like sneak up on me. So we're here at David Taylor's. This is called the Facility Nashville. We're going to show you a really nice little boutique studio for any of you guys want to record. This crew you're going to meet is just top-notch, world-class guys, man, and all just really nice. They always add stuff, and they stick around till they really feel like the job's done well. So come on in, man. It's going to be fun. You'll get a chance to see what it's like to record. I don't know. What's up, bro?
How's it going?
How you doing, man?
Hey!
This is David Taylor.
Did we meet over the internet one time?
I did?
Did we do a video chat with?
Oh, we were talking about how with the microphones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good to meet you back. Yeah.
I forgot about
Finally
that.
meet you. Yeah.
Hi,
Amy, Dave.
David, how you doing? So, you ready for an exciting World Stop recording session?
Dude, we're always pumped. 4 songs.
4 songs.
I'm gonna have to drink some coffee today.
Thank you.
I have no clue what I'm doing.
Oh, thank you.
Here we go.
So.
The last 4s are beat bars at 3, right?
Yeah.
Well, the man wakes me up with a warning. Gonna be 90 by late morning. Well, I'm out of coffee and I'm out of bread. Only cold water from my shower head. But it's Friday, payday, the beers are on ice, and everybody's ready to party. Party tonight, baby. And when the sun goes down, we'll get lit up. Coolers in the bed of my truck. 100 pack of solo cups to the beach with my friends. Get lit up, baby.
Yeah, I love that. You know, any artist with talent like you at your songwriting and your singing and your playing, and just but then to go in there and you guys just kind of blend, and if the people in the studio are like that, which they should be. You and I talked about Jim Ebert, and when everybody does their Cancer Can Rock things in there with the Andy Hamburgers and the Eric Scotts and the Buddy Spears and all these amazing musicians, they feel so comfortable walking into a studio. I love that you did that. We have a song that has come up, and again, it's done very well in Nashville. It's a wonderful single called Jimmy Buffett Didn't Write This Song. Dave, briefly before we get a chance, very honored to have you play it here. What was behind that?
I was playing a gig, and I had done this song about having the whole day off, and it's just kind of this, kind of easy, kind of going song, and it's about having a whole day off. And at the end of the show, a buddy of mine had been imbibing quite a bit, and he's like, "Man, Jimmy Buffett wishes he'd written that song." I was like, "I don't think Jimmy Buffett wakes up at night and going, if only I'd written that song Dave Mininberg wrote, I'd be famous."
Right.
But it gave me a good idea, and I was in Nashville. This guy named Reed Brannon, and Reed had like a cut or two. Right. He doesn't spend much time in Nashville, really. Like a lot of guys made a go of it. But my dad actually knew Reed somehow, and he said, "Hey, you ever talk to this guy?" And so Reed said, "Hey, well, let's get together and see if we have any chemistry." And we started talking for a little bit, and he said, "What do you have?" And I said, "Well, I have this idea of doing a Jimmy Buffett type song, but I want to make sure people know that Jimmy Buffett didn't write this song." And being the creative types, we were like, "Well, let's call it Jimmy Buffett Didn't Write This Song." So I'd say we did that was one of the longer writing sessions I've had at one sitting, but it took us about 10 hours, and we had probably 80% of the song done. And then actually that recording, my duo partner, Tom Briner, plays both the guitar and the bass parts.
Oh, wow.
That was before I had done a lot of recording in Nashville. And I had done an interview down there on WFMC Jams, and that was one of the questions. Guys like, "Who's doing your guitar work?" And I thought, well, that's really cool, because Tom's like a lifelong musician.
Sure.
And so it was cool that somebody kind of recognized. And the way his parts are very sort of Buffett-esque, the guitar parts. So it was kind of cool.
And Jimmy just continues to churn along with all his different talents, as well as his singing and songwriting. As I mentioned to you, Livingston Taylor was on Living on Music last week and talked about Jimmy and how close they remain. And so it's wonderful. We're all merging together. Here we go, you guys. Very honored today to have Dave here, and also playing a little bit for us right now. This is what we were just talking about, a little bit of Jimmy Buffett didn't write this song.
And the line in the song about I met him at Tobacco Road, that is absolutely true. We hung out together one night. Here we go now. Heading down to 818, mile marker 48. Turn left past the trailer park, second story tiki bar right beside the bay. Bartender brings me a drink, wicked brew that she just made. On oceanfront view, this bar stool, I'm already wasting away. Jimmy Buffett didn't write this song, kind that makes you wanna quit your job, fill another straw with alcohol. Somewhere it's always 5 o'clock. There's a pretty smile with long tan legs, stealing glances giving me away. I think I feel a hit coming on. Jimmy Buffett didn't write this song. Sun sliding down the sky, spring breakers getting high. A local legend shows up, he high fives and fist bumps selfies with somebody's wife. Jimmy Buffett didn't write this song, kind that makes you wanna quit your job and fill another straw with alcohol. Somewhere it's always 5 o'clock. There's a pretty smile with long tan legs, stealing glances giving me away. I think I feel a hit coming on. Jimmy Buffett didn't write this song. Miami at Tobacco Road, I'd like to give him some credit, but the booze and the ladies inspire me to write. And if the flip-flop fits, you know I'm gonna wear it. I mean, the man's a genius and all, but Jimmy Buffett didn't write this song, kind that makes you wanna sing along and sip another straw with alcohol. Somewhere it's always 5 o'clock. There's a pretty smile with long tan legs, skinny dipping out there in the waves. I think I feel a swell coming on. Jimmy Buffett didn't write this song. I think I feel a hit coming on. Jimmy Buffett didn't write this song.
Oh man, that is it. Boy, does that is, to me, from what I've been able to, kind of cull from listening to you and researching you, that really encompasses a lot of you. It is fun. It's a little bit of obviously a fun thing towards Buffett, but boy, your voice really is wonderful. I love that. Let's talk just a little bit here, Dave, about how you got to where you are. And a lot of that is young. You're born in Geneva, Switzerland, which I found was fascinating. What was the reason behind being there?
I guess my mom was there at the time.
Wow.
I mean, my dad had some job that he used to travel, and I guess the company was based out of there, so they brought some folks from the States out there to work.
Wow.
I don't know. He was an accountant.
Right.
It's development. They did some development out there, and I don't want to get too far off track. Maybe you edit this out. You ever Bernie Vesco?
No, I don't think so.
He got in trouble for doing something in those days with dealing with like derivatives or something, and he ended up running away to Cuba and Castro kind of.
God,
but that was the guy that was running the company.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
So when that happened, they came back to the States.
Well, that's what I was. Yeah. When did you come to the States as a youngster?
So I was not quite 3. We moved to Hollywood, Florida.
You did. So to Florida first. And then when did you make your way up towards this region towards the DC area and Virginia and Maryland?
Florida. Then we lived in London for a couple of years.
Wow.
And then Maryland when I was probably 8 or 9 years old.
Wow.
Then we stayed in Maryland. My dad moved back to Florida. And then I would go visit him. He moved down to Hallandale.
Right.
Then I ended up moving to Florida again.
Right.
Came back to, at that time, now and then my family started migrating over to Virginia. My mom was the first. Then later on, my brother.
Right.
Just it was less expensive, but still close to work and everything.
Sure. I mean, that time between the birth in October of 68 in Geneva until, high school, what were the musical? I mean, you're in London, you're in Florida, you're moving around, you're a young kid. Where did the musical influences come at that point in your life?
I think both my parents have good musical taste, albeit a little bit different. So, and of course, you remember in those days, and I'd say both my daughters have pretty good eclectic mixes of music. But in those days, you could listen to one radio station. The DJ could choose. So your 11 to 3 slot might be playing one kind of music, kind of like the old WKRP, right? I mean,
yeah.
Johnny Fever does rock and roll, and then Venus does his jazz, and so everything from my dad. And they had albums, and I would go put them on, listen to them. Everything from Louis Armstrong, Wes Montgomery,
right,
to Paul Simon, Glenn Campbell. So it was just this whole range that we had, even in the house. And I was a curious kid, so I would play that stuff and listen.
Sure, some Ray Charles, some Willie Nelson too, I guess. Yeah.
Ray Charles and Willie Nelson, two of my absolute favorites. I used to go see Ray Charles when he was up at the Wolf Trap for years.
Yeah, I remember my parents had Crying Time, which was one of the great records, and he became part of my soul too. So yeah, there was those sounds. You also wrote poetry as a kid, didn't you?
When I got a little older, yeah. So I grew up playing the saxophone, actually.
Yes.
Did that for a while, all through high school. I was the baritone sax guy my senior year because they needed somebody, and I thought, you get all the solos, I'll take that.
Right.
And then I had a girlfriend when I first went to college and I was always a big reader. I've always been a big reader anyway.
Right.
And I took a Brit Lit class in college, and then I had a girlfriend who was into poetry, and I started writing poetry.
Wow.
Yeah, that was probably, I don't know, maybe I was 19.
Sure.
And I started doing a lot of that. But it didn't occur to me to write songs. The Horseshoe Curve?
Yes.
So 20 years ago, I'm up there playing.
Wow.
And there's this guy, Frank. He's since passed. But Frank comes up to me and goes, "Hey, what about your stuff?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, a place like this, we want to know what you have to say."
Great. And
I was like, "Okay." Wow. And I went home and looked up some of my old poetry. Some of it I took it and sort of, the subjects of songs. But that was really when my real writing started.
Oh, I love that. And you became around your mid-20s or in that time of your life, in the early 20s and maybe even younger, baseball was something that you had a dream of playing.
Yeah. Everybody hits their level. And mine was, I walked on at a D1 school. I made the team, but I wasn't playing a whole lot. And, you realize some of these guys you're a baseball guy?
Yeah, big time.
So when I say this to you, you know what I mean? When a guy can get fooled on a curveball, keep his hands back, and still drive it hard to right field.
Right.
And I'm looking at him going, there ain't no way I can do that.
Wow.
Not against these pitchers. And so at some point, I remember thinking, I want to do music, but what's my shelf life on sports? I figured it was, it was limited. It was going to come to an end sooner than later. So I figured I'd pursue it and work at it as long as I could. And then I could do the music more.
Yeah, exactly. And you said there was even a kind of a quote that you were tiring of government work at that point too. Playing baseball wasn't going to happen. You began as a social studies teacher around 25 years old. I mean, that is an amazing feat. Where did that begin, and how did you decide to become a teacher? That is fabulous.
Well, so I had kind of a peripatetic college career, right. And I ended up back in Miami living with my brother, and I was finishing up school at FIU.
Right.
And I was looking for work. It was kind of a recession, and I started subbing, and I was an assistant coach at Sunset Hills High School. And so I was coaching baseball and subbing. And then I got hired for a sub job at a place called North Dade Middle School in Opelika, Florida, which at that time had maybe the highest or second highest murder rate in the country. I mean, it was a rough, tough area.
Right.
And I got there as a middle school teacher, and I had never, I had a history degree, and I had taken a couple education classes on the advice of a guidance guy, a counselor, and he said, you never know what you want to do. And so I didn't have a license or anything. And after about 3-4 days, the principal came and said, hey, we'd like to offer you a full-time job. And I said, I'm just a sub. I don't have a. And he said, yeah, but that class hasn't been quiet all year. We've had 3 teachers, and the teachers on either side said they don't know what's going on, but it's quiet in there. I said, well, I don't know what I'm doing. So I did that till the end of the year. Still wasn't sure that's what I wanted to do. I got into law school, went for a day. I was like, I guess I'm not going to be a lawyer.
Right.
And worked for the federal government. And it was an okay job. It was just a job. And one day my boss, Patricia Vincent, said, she said to me, the only time you get excited talking about jobs you've had, because I had a lot of bad jobs. I was a roofer, I was a barback, bartender, waiter, just construction guy. And she said, the only time you get excited about your work is when you talk about your time as a teacher. She said, you really get excited about that. And I thought, So at that time, I didn't know what I wanted to do. My dad said, hey, why don't you come back to Florida? You can figure it out. Stay at my place for a couple months.
Right.
So I did. And then ended up getting a job teaching at an at-risk school. The kids were court ordered there. Mm-hmm. They all had police records. And so I took that job. It's probably emotionally the toughest job I think I've ever had.
I bet.
I mean, it was, fights started all. I mean, it was a tough school. But while I was there, I decided, I think I like this. And I went back and I got took my classes I needed to get a license. And then I went and taught at the regular public school, Coral Park High School down there.
Wow.
Which is actually Pitbull's alma mater.
Oh, wow.
He was there when I was there, but I didn't know him.
Oh, that's fast. That's fabulous that you were doing that, though. And as you got into your 30s, it seemed like music started to really, again, take a turn up with solo acoustic gigs. Charleston, like the Mecklenburg, the Charles Washington, I know those places well. In your late 30s, you hooked up with Tom Briner, who was the guitar teacher, and that seems like it was a neat moment for you.
Yeah, I mean, Tom had been a working professional musician, his whole life. He actually also went to the University of Richmond. He'd done cruise ships. He was one of the first members of the Kings of Swing down there in Richmond. The King's Dominion.
Yes.
Had a band. He played the drums for the Temptations and the Four Tops, like when they would tour, and they would, he's a local musician who got, get hired out to do all this stuff. So he's like a real professional. And we were working, and my buddy, who was the drummer, we had a few sort of playing with other folks, and it just hadn't worked out. I had started playing. Yeah, I was probably 32, 33. Started playing around town because I, having kids and school, and I was coaching. You don't really have time.
Sure.
I picked it. I really got into it again, and then and I met Tom, and we clicked pretty well. Musically, I mean, I'm a rhythm guy. Right. I don't really play lead. He's a very good lead player. Mm-hmm. I'm a writer, and he doesn't write a lot. So it was just like a nice blend. I do the writing, the rhythm stuff. He can do all the fancy stuff. And plus, he's one of those guys been playing for. He knows just a ton of songs. So when somebody requests a song, a lot of times he knew it, hey, do you know any Patsy Cline? Sure. He knows it. I mean, he could.
Nice.
Plays all that stuff. And
wow.
So it gave me a chance to play with somebody and also build my repertoire while I was still able to play a lot of songs with him.
Right.
And so, we played, anywhere from 50 to 70 gigs a year for a while. And then, last couple of years, I've just been really trying to do my solo stuff, and he knows it. I mean, I tell him, and there's no major issues, and we just play less and less as it becomes more and more of a career for me.
Sure,
and traveling. Although he came down to Nashville with me, and we played at the Bluebird.
Sweet.
So that was a lot of fun.
God, can't find that more legendary place. There's a million legendary places in Nashville, but that is the probably had to be one of the most incredible experiences. Was he part of Seventh Son of West Virginia?
Yeah. So he and I were playing as a duo, and then my drummer. And originally he had joined the band as the bass player. We had another guy that was a lead guitar player. But then that guy saw Tom play lead guitar, and he just stopped showing up.
Oh, God. I noticed that.
Good. He was good. You know, Tom's just a guy that he's trained. You know, he can play classic. He can play jazz. I mean, he can just play it all. So I think that guy was a bit intimidated. So then we were like, well, shoot, now we need a bass player. And then Tom goes, oh, my wife's a bass player. She's a classically trained cellist.
It's Kelly, right?
Yeah, and she also played with the University of Richmond Orchestra.
Oh.
So she joined. And then we were playing in those days, you know, gigs like 10 to 2 in the morning. And it was hard. And I think Kelly and Phil Truitt, the drummer, to them, it was something they really enjoyed doing, but they didn't. And they said this, you know, this isn't really something I want to do every weekend. It's hard.
Sure.
It's a lot of hours, you know, but they certainly enjoyed the playing. And I think sometimes I feel like they sort of did as a favor to me. You know, I mean, I got them paid too, right? That little money's nice, but
yeah, paid favor ain't bad.
You know, yeah, if you need us, we'll come play, kind of thing. And we did. We played together for, I don't know, you know, 10, 12 years. But as the breweries and wineries opened up, I didn't have to play from 10 to 2. I could play, you know, 2 to 5, you know, reasonable hours when you have kids.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, show up and play a gig from 1 to 4. Like you do some of these. I mean, same.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. What I'd love to do is show a little piece of the Seventh Son of West Virginia, because I love your singing. I love the fact that watching Tom play those leads, a couple of leads, solos are fun. Here we go. Here's another step in a wonderful moment in the Dave Mininberg career. Here's a little bit of Seventh Son of West Virginia doing "I'm Gone."
Sound. Gotta know what it will be, baby. Gotta know it's hurt on me now. Feel the pain in the heat, yeah. Feel the love can't be big, cause I'm gone. Once came back again, just a way that I can be the friend, yeah. This time, well, I'm gonna stay gone. This time, gonna keep moving on now. Feel the pain in the heat, yeah. Feel the love can't be big, cause I'm gone. I'm gone. Why is it we hurt so bad, baby? Why is it we keep coming back? Heads both know that this is no good, but our hearts don't listen like they should. Feel the pain in the heat, yeah. Feel the love can't be big, cause I'm gone.
Yeah, you guys rock that. Tom's wailing. Your voice sounds fabulous. That had to be a good run with those guys. But then you thought, look, I'm going forward, as you just said a few minutes ago. This is kind of turning into a full run, and you want to give it a shot, and you're doing it more Dave Mininberg now.
Yeah, a few years ago, particularly, I thought, you know, what do I want to do with this? And I was getting enough good feedback. You know, it's a grind. I mean, a lot of people go, "Oh, it's great, you're pursuing what you love," and you are.
Yeah.
But you're also driving in a car. You're also having people tell you they don't like your stuff. You know, you can't take it personally. Everybody's got their own taste.
Right.
You know, I've had literally in the same day one person say, "Yeah, I don't think that song's a song you should do," and another person who had a couple of #1 songs say to me, yeah, don't listen to them. That's a good song.
Isn't that wild?
Literally the same day. Like they heard the other person and waited till the other person was out of the room and it came around just to say to me, that's a good song. So you do hear that. I mean, I've done some of the knocking on doors and people are like, what do you want me to do? You know, you need to build this yourself is really what they say. I don't really have any management, although I'm starting to look into that because I have grown enough. And I just thought, all right, I got 3 years I can retire from teaching. I get opportunities in Nashville that I turn down because I go for 5 days, 6 days. And somebody will say, hey, do you want to write together? Somebody who's good, somebody who's connected. And I say, sure, how about tomorrow? And they say, no, how about next week? And I say, no, I'm not here next week. And you can write. And I've tried some of that writing over, but it's just not the same energy.
Sure.
And like my friend Danny Strymer, he's a very good writer, Danny. He was friendly with John Prine, actually. He said John Prine.
Nice. And
Danny said, somebody's going to leave the table and there's going to be an empty seat and you need to be here. And I thought, I don't know if I can live down there, but I'd certainly like to be able to spend 3-4 weeks at a time.
Yeah.
And, you know, because it really is like any job. You have to be good, but then your network really matters.
Yeah.
And that's the difficult part is building that network when I'm only down there.
Right.
But I've had 2 or 3 now writers, and I don't want to mention their names because I don't know that they want me using them to publicize my stuff, but that have had #1 hits, gold records. One of the guys has had over 20, and they said, you know, they think my stuff is really good. And when I started hearing that, I thought, you know, because you never really know, right? Your friends are going to tell you you're good,
right? Right.
And then we play in places, you know. But they said and I don't just mean like personality on stage, but the lyrics, the songwriting, and it's like anything, right? When I first started teaching, I thought I was pretty good. Then after 15 years, I look back and I thought, good God, I really wasn't all that great. I did some good things, but I wasn't at that, you know, there's a level you reach. I'm sure like you in your interviews, right? Your first interview, your second, by the time you've done it 6, 8, 10 years, you know how to get things out of people. You know the questions, you know where you want. I mean, it's a craft. There's a craft to asking questions, just like there's a craft to, like, you know, you write.
Well, I totally understand you, Dave. I didn't start singing either till I was 46, and I never sang. And it's taken enough time over the last 17 years where now I feel I'm singing stronger than I've ever done. And it's just keeping at it, keep learning, finding what people are saying and doing. I love that you're doing that. Before I bid you a fond adieu, I would love to hear you play the title track from this new record. Where did the impetus from writing Change Your State of Mind come from?
Last year, I think it was February, my heat pump burned up. The guy came, fixed it, and he said, you had a leak, it's fried, you need to replace the motor. You need a whole new unit. And that was a lot of money. And I was like, oh. And he said, the good news is you don't have to pay for it right away because it's going to take us a month before we can get one for you. I got no heat. Well, I have this fireplace, this wood stove. It's an older house. And if you crank this up, honestly, you can heat the house with it.
Nice.
Like I was coming down here in a T-shirt and shorts at 74 degrees downstairs, 70 upstairs. I mean, I had to keep it going 24 hours a day. But so I was sitting here one day and we had a snowstorm. When was that snowstorm last year? Was it like late February, early March?
Something like that. Yeah.
So we had it out of the blue.
Right around my birthday. I was like,
oh,
what?
was it? Okay. So I get a text from a friend, Susan. She says, when are you going to do this? And there's a link, and I open the link, and there's a guy on that day standing out in his backyard down in Arlington playing in the snowstorm wearing shorts and a T-shirt, you know. And I was like, I am not going to do that, Susan. Definitely not doing it. But it got me kind of thinking, because as somebody that loves the beach, when the weather gets cold here, I am constantly thinking about, man, I could just get on I-95 and in about 16 hours I could be on the beach, you know. I miss that. I miss February when it's, you know, crisp at night and 70 degrees during the day. And you can, I love the beach. I love the warm weather.
Right.
And I thought, well, I can't always change my state, but you can change your state of mind. You know, sometimes you just got to do things that remind you of the beach. And so that's where the song came from.
Oh, that's wonderful, man. What a perfect way to end this fabulous journey. Ladies and gentlemen, living on Music Nation, title cut to Dave Mininberg's newly released record. Here's a little Change Your State of Mind.
Oh man, I don't know if you're one of the people that every winter you dream about the beach and the warm weather, man. You can't always change your state, but you can change your state of mind. Your state of mind. Got some advice when winter's getting you down. Get some sand and a sun lamp and then strip down. Coconut lotion and your flip-flops too. Crank up the heat, baby, just for a few. Get a tall, cold drink with some rum and some lime and some ice. Pretty soon, you're gonna start to feel real nice. Change your state of mind. Your state of mind. I've been to Miami and I've been to the Keys. Been on a small island with some big palm trees. When you're too far from that warm sunshine, you can always find a way to have a tropical time. Change your state of mind. Your state of mind. I saw a guy in a video. He was playing Jimmy Buffett out in the snow. Had on shorts and an old t-shirt. Only thing he's missing was his Hulu skirt. He played the guitar and he danced a little whirl, singing like he didn't have a care in the world. Change the state of mind. Your state of mind. Dream of blue oceans every day. When the world is tilting the wrong way, you got to change your state of mind. Your state of mind. I've been to Miami and I've been to the Keys. Been on a small island with some big palm trees. When you're too far from that warm sunshine, you can always find a way to have a tropical time. Change your state of mind. Your state of mind. Oh, make the shower like a steamer, man. Your state of mind. Put pictures of pineapples all over your bedroom. Your state of mind. Smoke a doobie, drink a margarita, yeah. Your state of mind. Yeah.
Yes. You know what, Dave Mininberg? That is where you are right now, man. That is fun stuff. It sounds great. The voice sounds strong. You must feel good kind of going forth with 50, 55 plus gigs coming up in the next year. Music seems to be kind of surging for you right now, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing 80 to 100. I'm going to retire from teaching. My goal is to get it up to maybe 150 or so.
Right.
And just keep grinding away. I like to say I'm like dripping water. Just keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. Yeah.
I love that. Again, Dave's new record is Change Your State of Mind. Where can they find it on DaveMininberg.com, etc.?
If you go to DaveMininberg.com, there's actually a link that says, add Dave to your favorite streaming service. You go there, and there's links to Spotify, Amazon, iTunes, YouTube, Deezer, and of course, honestly, it's on so many streaming services, I don't know half of them.
Right.
And for what they're called, those seem to be the most common when I ask people what do you listen to. That's why I put those links up there. But really, anywhere you stream music, it should be available. And of course, come out to a show. I mean, if you're local, I got a couple friends. We're going to be right up here at Coach's Corner on Wednesday. The owner, Rob Burton, said to me, hey, you guys want to do something just fun, around holiday, Christmas time? And I said, yeah, let's do it, man. You know, it'll just be fun. Invite some folks and hopefully some former students at college come home. And
Oh, that's fantastic. I got Lost Rhino coming up a couple of times too, which is a fun place in Ashburn. Look, Dave, thanks so much for taking the time to be on Living on Music with me, man.
Steve, I can't believe you had me on, honestly, with all these great folks you've had on. Yeah, I think it's really cool that you had me on, man. So I take it as a big compliment, and I'll have to reach out to Melissa. You said Melissa,
yes, Quinn Fox.
I've seen her name all over the place. So
yes, she's again somebody like you who's surging ahead with songs that you're writing. The writing seems to be going, and I'm wishing you nothing but the best of luck going forward. Let's keep in close touch as we go forward, man. Thanks again.
I'd like that, and I'd like to help Jim out if he has anything. He just needs. I don't do a lot of volunteering because you know how it is. You got to be kind of careful. Everybody wants you to play for free and promote yourself.
Yes,
but there's stuff like that, that one and the Crossroads one that helps kids. I'm more than happy to make sure I can get time to do something like that.
Absolutely. And I'll pass your name on to Jim Ebert from Kansas and Rock again, as you guys have touched base before. Thanks again, Dave Mininberg, and keep in touch.
Take care, Steve.
All right, man. Yeah. Dave Mininberg, thanks so much for being on Living on Music, man. That was a wonderful journey down your musical path. And I wish you best of luck with your songwriting, your numerous gigs coming up in 2023 and beyond. Let's keep in close touch. Everybody, Living on Music will be coming up in April, 3 years in full engagement with musicians from not only the DC area, but also around the world. And we're not slowing down. If you're not a member yet, go to Facebook. And on the Facebook Living on Music with Steve Houck Facebook page, just join and become a member. And we're up towards about 1,200 and doing really, really well. And I love having people on and engage and post things and comment on things. It's just a wonderful engagement. Also, YouTube, Living on Music on YouTube. That is something I really want to grow a lot in 2023. You get perks, you get some ways to be able to kind of spread out your presence and sharing things on YouTube and beyond. And so subscribe if you're not a member, and you'll get pinged just when we have additions, episodes and excerpts and things like that. We do have a wonderful playlist called Living on Music Excerpts, and it's going to continue to grow. I've got some amazing shows over the last interviews that I've done over the last 10 or 15 years, some just audio, and they'll be podcasts focused, but talking about incredible moments in music with some of the biggest people that you could imagine. And I'll be teasing that as we go by, but that's all on YouTube. And also, if you're a podcaster, go to my Spreaker base right here. It is Living on Music with Steve Houck on Spreaker. Spreaker basically gives me a base of the episodes kind of on their own page. And then if you see there are podcasts all over the main podcast apps. And you just go to Living on Music with Steve Houck, click on the right, and you'll go right to it, or search it when you go to it and become part of our podcast world. Review the show if you get a chance. The reviews are wonderfully accepted on podcasts, and they help grow, and that's what we're going to try to do. So I wish everybody a wonderful 2023 as we move into this time, and I hope everybody is staying happy, staying healthy, staying safe, enjoying live music, because that's what people need to do is, as they feel safe and comfortable going back out and doing things, support live local musicians, regional musicians, national musicians. Everybody needs a helping hand to keep going strong after the last 3 years almost of something we never expected. But again, thanks so much for joining me. And don't forget to always keep living on music.